Welcome to the White Sox Recap Podcast. I am Ryan McGuffey. Oh my goodness. I just can't take it anymore. I can't. And that's why we're doing a podcast on the topic. I hear and see a lot of people on the ledge screaming, worried about the teams behind the Chicago White Sox and not worried about the Chicago White Sox and what's in front of them, which is open road and open land, because the White Sox have been in first place for over 70 days. And everyone is acting as if the sky is falling. Why? As we approach the end of August, is that the feeling on the South Side and coast to coast? Speaking of coast to coast, that's where I go for a guest this week on the podcast. The great pride of Northwest Indiana, Dan Plesac. He's been in the booth for over 20 games this year. The pride of MLB Network and one of my dear friends for the last 2+ decades. Joins me and Jonathan Hood on this edition of the White Sox Recap Podcast as we try to lower the pulse and calm the nerves and give people free therapy for the next half hour or so on this edition of the White Sox Recap Podcast. And it starts right now. All right, the band. Look at Dan Plesac wearing the rally polo. Look at this. The best.
And I want you to know I watched it, Guff and Hoodie. I watched it.
I was just going to ask if there was a stench in the MLB Network office.
It smells like first place. It smells like success.
Hey, I got to tell you what, man. This thing brought the White Sox some luck. I actually wore it in a member guest event last year, like a week after that road trip, and we won our flight. So this thing, it helps not only at the rate, but it helps at Upper Montclair Country Club too.
Well, it became a rallying cry. Like, fans hopped on board. They were coming at you like, dude, you got to keep that going. So it was a 2-for-1. Like, you were going with it, but then people hopped on board to the point where you had no other choice than to hang that puppy in some of those closets you were staying in, because it was bringing success in the second half, and you've carried it in to 2026.
Yeah. I have to allow some secrecy here. You know, I kept tweeting and being on social media, I'm not washing it until they lose, right? I was washing it every night, but I was hand doing it in the sink. And then the only part was I had to iron it every day. So it looked like, and then I would before a game put some food crumbs on it just to make it look like it was battle tested. So, but I was washing it, Guff.
That's like something out of Northwest Indiana. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that. We've all done that. So, okay. I wanted to get you on a couple of times throughout the year, but it felt like this might be the perfect timing, because for whatever reason, and I have a bunch of stats here, we're recording this. The White Sox are 6 games over 500. They have a 2.5 game lead over the Red Hot Guardians. You tweeted this last night. Hey, White Sox fans, don't be one of these. Sox lead 8-4 in the 5th. It's getting fun. No jumping off the ledge. What you all wanted, meaningful baseball late in the season. Don't give up now. This group didn't get this far to come this far. Let's go White Sox, with a person jumping off of a bridge and into the lake, which I felt was like the perfect tweet that sums up how White Sox fans, and I'm not saying, I'm very adamant here, and Hoodie knows this, we've talked about it. I'm not going to tell you how to fan, but I will say this and point out that the White Sox have been in first place for 74 days this year. I understand that it's foreign territory after the last couple of years, but why are we getting this type of feeling that we're talking people off the ledge, Dan Plesac?
Well, you know what it is? If I would describe this team in 2 words, they are perfectly imperfect. The way they have gone about this the last 2 months is so atypical from most of the other teams that are in contention for a playoff spot. When I look at this team, I think the unsung part of this team has been the bullpen, but they've asked so much of this bullpen. The other day, Sean Newcomb starts a game. I can't wait until they clinch and Will Venable can use the bullpen the way he would like to use it. But unfortunately, he can't. You have 2 quality lefties. You have 3 quality righties. But they're having to mix and match so often to keep them in a game early that they're taking Newcomb out of a game that they'd like to use him in the 6th, 7th, or 8th, but they have to use him as an opener. And it is marvel to me. Guff, I got to tell you this. The first set of games I did this year was at Citizens Bank Park against the Phillies. They had just made the managerial change to Don Mattingly, and the Phillies were on a roll. White Sox were hovering right around 500 at that point. I watched the 3 games. The White Sox lost 2 out of 3. Should have won 2 of the 3 and could have won all 3. The most hostile environment in Major League Baseball is Citizens Bank Ballpark. I mean, that is a raucous place to play. And the White Sox, they just exchanged haymakers with the Phillies for 3 days. They lost the Sunday day game that they probably should have won. They were up 2-0. The Phillies dropped the 5 spot on them, and you're thinking, oh, this could get ugly. The White Sox tied this thing up at 6, and Caro hit a ball that I thought was a homer that Brendan Marsh made a great catch on the wall, and it would have been 8-6 White Sox. They ended up losing that game. I walked away, and when I got to MLB Network, all the guys that I work with were like, hey, how'd you like doing the games? And the first thing that jumped out to me is, this team is a lot better than I even thought they were. They just are, man. Guff, they've had 2 times this year where I thought they're kind of like those defenses in the National Football League. They bend, but they don't break. They lost a Thursday, Friday game in Cleveland on the road, and it looked like the wheels were coming off. What do? They figure out a way how to win Saturday. They figure out a way how to win Sunday. Fast forward a couple of weeks forward, they're playing a big homestand against the Yankees. They lose the first 2 games of that homestand. And all of a sudden, now they're facing Cam Schlittler, and you're like, oh, no. Is this the time where the slipper falls off? What do? They win the 3rd game. They win the 4th game. What I love about this team, when it's unexpected, like if you're the Dodgers, if you're the Phillies, if you're one of those teams when the season starts that you're supposed to win, and you're having a year like this, you're like, oh, okay. But when you're having a year, the White Sox they're 3 years ahead of schedule right now. And the invaluable experience that this team is getting under the gun. I thought the 3 games in Wrigley Field, I thought the Monday, Tuesday night game, those were playoff atmospheres. I told myself the cardinal rule of doing national TV, right? I'm supposed to love all 30 teams the same, but I don't. I grew up a White Sox fan. I watched both those night games, and they were heartbreaking losses. And to come back on the day game on getaway day and take that 3rd game against the Cubs, it was just another proof to me that these guys bend, but they don't break. And they push you to the point as a fan where you're like, okay, when's the slipper going to fall off? This is a tough-minded group. They just are. I was fortunate to do 20 games and go into that clubhouse, and I walked into that clubhouse after some crushing losses the next day. This is the best bunch of guys. I'm telling you, I don't regret playing. I haven't since the day I retired. Thought, boy, I miss playing. I like to play, but I got to tell you, I walk into that clubhouse and I'm like, man, I would love to play on a team like this. Young guys, they play with reckless abandon. Sam Antonacci, Chase Mydroff. These guys, man, they are blue collar. They get after it. They're a hard team not to root for. The cool thing about this, the Crosstown, is I think even the direst of Cub fans, the best of Cub fans, walked away from that series going, it was hard to say anything bad about the White Sox, because I think there's a mutual respect now between the 2 teams that they're both good. Yep. And it's not like the White Sox are 40 games under and the Cubs are just going to sweep them away and, make fun of the White. And the coolest part about this, if you're a White Sox fan, for the last 5 years, man, you've had to turn your hat around backwards. You'd have to, by August 1st, you're thinking about what's going on at Hallis Hall. And it's great now that it's not like that.
So, Dan, I've been telling this guy right here, Guff, I said, you know why people are feeling like they're freaking out and they're wondering about the White Sox? Because we care. That's why. There's conversation. Amen. I mean, when we're losing 100 games, getting your ass kicked, there's nothing to talk about, right? But now there's an emotion in the streets about the White Sox. There's a buzz right outside my window here on the south side because the White Sox are good. I do want to ask you about the learning curve, though, because what's so fun about this team is they don't know what they don't know. They're just going out there playing carefree and loose, which is great, right? They don't seem tight at all. But the learning curve for this young team going into the playoffs, what issues will they face in the postseason versus now the regular season?
Hoodie, I don't really, it's hard to give you a definitive answer on that. I think the unique part about this team is they understand where they're at, but they really don't care. Now you could make an argument like you want to go into the postseason with a veteran bunch of guys that have been there before. Hey, the Phillies have done that the last three postseasons, and they've been bounced. Right? And they've got Zach Wheeler, they've got Aaron Nola, Jesus Luzardo, Christopher Sanchez, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Brendan Marsh. It doesn't matter when you get into the postseason, and that's the beauty part of it. I'm excited. I hope, like, I keep my fingers crossed that they can win this thing with like 4 or 5 days to go, where they can kind of rest some guys and get the bullpen and get the rotation set. And they're a dangerous team because if Sean Burke is throwing the ball really well, I don't know what's going to happen with Davis Martin when he comes back. A little disappointed in Anthony Kay last night. When he strings together 3 or 4 starts where you're like, hey, man, he's really starting to step up. They get a big lead last night. He's got to figure out a way to get through 5 or 6 innings at that game last night. But I don't blame Will Venable. These games are too important now to worry about, hey, I got to make a guy feel good. We got to try to win the game. But I'll be interested to see if, and I think when they do win this Central, when they can set a rotation and a bullpen and use it the right way and not use guys that are high leverage guys in the first and second inning so they can keep a game close. And they were fortunate at Wrigley. They were up against it that third game. Urquidy just happened to pitch one of the games of his life. He really did. And it couldn't come at a bigger time. And I look at this team and they just have so much resiliency and backbone that I don't think they're going away. And maybe I'm looking at it through White Sox lenses and because I have an attachment with the team. But I'm telling you, if you walk into that clubhouse and you're there 3 hours before a game, man, they are working, they are grinding. Hey, listen. They're aware they're in first place by 2.5 games. They know they are, but they're not scared of it. That's the cool part about it. They're perfectly imperfect. They're going to swing and miss. They're going to run into outs. Is the starter going to go 4 innings? Yeah, but you know what? They're winning games. Most teams don't win those kind of games, right? They just don't. They fold up. They lose the first 2 games against the Cubs, a normal team. You've got to use an opener, and somebody's got to cover some innings. Eric Fetty, since he's gone to the bullpen, he's pitched a couple of times, and he's eaten up some big innings to give them a chance to win some games. It's a different guy every night. And my concern is they got to get Montgomery going and they got to get Mooney going again. Those are 2 big bats they got to get going in that lineup.
Yeah, we'll talk about those guys in a second. I got a boatload of numbers here because I want to show, I think sometimes when we're so in it every day and you're in a pennant race that you forgot what it's like, you kind of forget about what happened in May and June and July to get you here. And I understand why people are freaking out. Like you talked about the pitching. I definitely understand that. I want to ask you a question about that, but I talked about 74 days in first place. Listen to this stuff. Biggest lead they've had, 5.5. Farthest behind, 5. Most games over 500, 7. Most games under 500, 7. Longest winning streak, 5. Longest losing streak, 4. Times shut out, 9. Times where they've shut out the opponent, 9. Blown leads, 31. Comeback wins, 33. Walk-off wins, 11. Walk-off losses, 7. This is who they are.
It is.
Screaming it into the sun. Why are we freaking out about the Guardians and the Twins and the Tigers who can't get out of their own way most of the year? Look at who this team has been, Dan Plesac, since May frickin' 1st. That's who they are.
And that's what makes this team so fun to rally around is you don't know what you're going to get. The first 7 weeks of the season, Davis Martin, you could have made a case, was one of the top 10 pitchers in the American League. And all of a sudden, he just went off the rails. He was great, and then poof, it was gone. I did a game in New York against the Yankees, and I know Sean Burke didn't like being the bulk guy, but the stats say that when he started a game, he wasn't as good as when he came in. He had a game in New York I did against the Yankees. He came in and pitched 6 innings and finished the game, went out and pitched the 9th, and Benintendi hit the grand slam to win at the Benny Bomb. And since then, he took off. Now, his last couple, but he's gotten you to the point to where you just expect he's the guy that's going to deliver. But let's not forget, he's a young pitcher. Right. And what the White Sox are doing, I mean, when you think about it, they don't have Max Fried and Carlos Rodon and Cam Schlittler, right? And they don't have the Rays kind of pitching. They don't. They have young guys. If the White Sox really thought that they were a team that was ready to win, they wouldn't have signed Anthony Kay to be in the starting rotation. The guys that they started the season were with, okay, how can we find some guys that are affordable, that can eat up some innings while we develop our young players, take some pressure off the guys in the bullpen? I mean, there was a talk 8-9 months ago, Grant, Taylor, maybe he's going to be a starter down the road. Well, he's a weapon now in the bullpen. So he is what he is right now. There are so many things that make this team, when you look at it on paper, they're not the Yankees, they're not the Red Sox, they don't have Ranger Suarez. They don't have what the Red Sox run 4 starting pitchers out there. Either they've signed it by free agents or they were coming up in the minor leagues, and these guys are going to be big parts of a rotation. The White Sox have kind of pieced this thing together on the fly, and just when you think they're going off the rails, they get the train right back on the track, and they just start running people over again. I'm not giving up. Do I get concerned? Of course you do, because it's been such a great fun year to cover the White Sox that you just hope you don't run into one of those Septembers where they go 10 and 20, and it was there. And I'm going to tell you this, they're not going to hand it away. Somebody's going to have to beat them. Now, are they in the same ilk as the Red Sox, the Yankees, and the Rays? Let's be honest, they're not. They don't have the established kind of roster that those teams have. The Yankees are crying about, hey, what do we do with Will Warren? I mean, God, that's a great problem to have. You're worried about your 5 starter, right? Oh my God, Weathers went down. What the hell is going to happen? How about being Will Venable? He doesn't know who's going to start a game outside of Sean Burke and Anthony Kay from day to day. Today, they might use 5 pitchers today, and tomorrow they're going to have to use everybody in the bullpen. But they figured out a way how to do it.
So, Danny, I think that Guff and I are on the same page. I think they were both my draft guys, right? At the same time, this is last year. While we're getting our ass kicked, we looked at my draft and said, you know what? You see him go in the box, and it's just like, you know what? That guy's never going to see Charlotte again. You could just tell. Even on a bad team, you just tell. We watch baseball for a long time. That's a grinder, right? Do you have a favorite unsung White Sox player? My drafts are high.
Antonacci. Man, I'm going to tell you something, man. For MLB Network, I covered pool. I can't remember what pool it was, but I was in Houston for the entire WBC. And Ned Colletti, who was a former, executive with the Cubs, GM of the Dodgers, I've known Ned for 40 years. I said, hey, tell me a guy on Team Italy that's going to play in the big leagues. He goes, I'm going to tell you right now, it's easy. Sam Antonacci. I go, tell me about it. He goes, well, he's a middle infielder. He can play everywhere. He's a guy that could have played in the 70s, 80s, 90s. No nonsense. Not afraid of the ball. He'll do anything he can to win a game. He's going to play in the big leagues. I said, really? So I kind of kept my eye on Sam Antonacci. And in the WBC, he was known for being, the guy with the decoy moves, like a ground ball was hit that he would dive for, and it wasn't a ground ball. It was a steal, and a guy would stand up and not take an extra base. So he's just one of those heady kind of everyday guys. And I just love his at-bats. He might strike out, and he might, he's gone from being a middle infielder to left field. And sometimes he doesn't hit the cutoff guy. He throws to the wrong base, but he's not doing it. He's a reactionary kind of player. And I think the more he learns the position in the outfield, think about it. Monday, he's playing left field. Tuesday, he's coming in the middle of the game playing second base. And then Thursday, he might be playing shortstop. Vargas is playing third base Monday and Tuesday. Oh, let's move him over to first base Wednesday and Thursday. They've asked a lot of these young players. And not only have they asked a lot, they've asked a lot while they're in the middle of a pennant race, and none of them have crumbled. Not one of them have crumbled, and that's why I'm excited about them.
Antonacci told me after the Cubs Sox series, it takes a village, and we have a really good village. And that's the mentality being in that clubhouse, as that they have. They don't care about last night. Like, I've never seen a team in all my years, as Hawk would say, I've never seen a team forget about what happened last night more than this current White Sox team. Whether they were beaten 11-0 or won 11-0, they honestly don't even want to talk about it. And they sure as hell don't want to talk about tomorrow. And I just think that mentality, we didn't see that from the Tony La Russa White Sox. We didn't see that from the Pedro Grifol White Sox. And there have been people criticizing, critiquing Will Venable lately. And we had this conversation in the dugout at Wrigley Field. Because you get the flowers when it's going well. You have to answer the bell when people want to be critical of your decisions. That's a good thing. That means that's a good thing that you're critiquing the manager's decision making on a nightly basis. But one thing that's not being critiqued in that clubhouse is the fact that it's a top down. You know who's in charge, Dan. You know that it's Will Venable. It's Will Venable's clubhouse. He wants the players. He was a former player. Chris Getz was a former player. Josh Barfield was a former player. This is a rare front office dynamic where they understand dynamics and young players and when they need time and when they don't. And yes, is everybody ahead of schedule? 100%. Maybe even Will Venable. But I think that player mentality that they've had from top down has shown each and every night.
Guff, you hit the nail on the head. You know, at broadcasting 20 games, I get a chance to go in the manager's office. And I was uber impressive from the first time I met him at the beginning of the year in 2025. And he gets it. And sometimes as a manager, you can't say publicly what you really want to say because you've got to protect your players, protect the organization. But I will say this. He wants to develop. He wants them to get better. He fully understands where they're at, but he wants them to win. He wants all those things. But more importantly, he wanted and wants to create a winning culture, because sometimes you can get in a building part of an organization and all of a sudden, hey, we're developing players. Well, sometimes that development goes 5 years. It goes 6 years, and the next thing you know, all the wave of young players that you've developed, they're all now suspects because none of them have hit for you. And you're waiting for this run of good players. Our minor league system is so bountiful, and we've got players that are coming. And then after about 5 or 6 years as a fan, you're like, hey, when is this going to happen? We were hearing about all these really good young players, but did our window close? And I've had several conversations with Will. And I'm telling you, he gets it, man. He wants to develop. He's being understanding. He does a great job of knowing when to put his armor on a guy and also when to smack somebody on the fanny and say, and sometimes that's sitting a guy. That's sometimes, and the way, hey, think about this. Tristan Peters before the All-Star break. I mean, where he's come from. And then after the break, he looked lost. Yep. So they make a trade. And all of a sudden, it looked like his playing time is going to get cut short. What's he doing now? He's their best offensive player again. So one of the things with this team that has amazed me, man, there's a lot of interchangeable parts. But when guys are sitting, I think they know why they're sitting, because they're not producing. And listen, there's 30 games left in the year. And you can't worry about it. It can't be personal. It's not personal, it's personnel. It's about winning, and they don't want to let this opportunity go. And I don't think they will. And is it going to get dicey in probably the last 5-6 days of the season? Yes. I shouldn't do this, but I'm looking at the schedule. I'm like, you're trying to figure out, they end the season with 3 games against the Rockies. Yep. So I know the Guardians have a pretty favorable schedule, but if the White Sox can get to where they want to get with a week to 10 days left, the schedule is a little bit more favorable for the White Sox the last week than it is the next 12 to 15 days.
So we're clinching on the road. Is that what you're saying?
I hope not. I bought tickets for the Friday night game. I might get fired at MLB because I want to be there Friday at the rate. I bought 2 tickets about 3 weeks ago. I was thinking ahead, Hoodie.
That's unbelievable.
And I got it when they were cheap. And I got it when they were cheap, too. Hoodie, I made sure I went on vividseats.com after they had lost a couple in a row where White Sox fans might be down in the dumps.
That's smooth, man. That's how you do it. That's exactly how you do it. I don't blame you for that. I did want to ask you about Hagen Smith. So I'm just right on this TV. I'm watching him in Arkansas, right? And just hard throwing lefty. I was like, boy, some team's going to really get a real fun in this kid. And he's with the White Sox. It's great. So watching him, you can see the development, Danny. You can see it, right?
Oh.
The fastball's there. He will walk a small island, stony or blue, but he'll walk a small island every now and then. But he gets back with a strikeout as well. What do you like about Hagen Smith?
What impressed me the most, got his world rocked by PCA, right? And listen, you're in like, you don't even have dirt under your cleats yet. All of a sudden, at Wrigley, boom, PCA takes him deep, hits a bomb. What does he do? Next couple games comes out like it didn't even bother him.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy has a lot of guts. He throws from a unique arm angle. He's tough to pick up. You would imagine he'd be a nightmare on lefties. He's another thing where if you get into the postseason, to me, he's more of that situational guy where you're getting through, you're going to face a break, you're going to play the Red Sox where you've got a couple of tough lefties. Man, you could deploy him in the 6th inning for 1 inning, and then you save Sean Newcomb. I know I'm putting the cart way above the horse, but I'm thinking about October, Hoodie. I'm not worried about tonight. I'm thinking about October.
That's why you're here. We appreciate your time. And a couple more with Dan Plesac from MLB Network, because I'm to the point where I don't care about my rearview mirror. Rip it off of my car. I don't care about who's chasing the Chicago White Sox. I don't. Let them figure it out. They got to do the work. The White Sox need to just tackle today. But there's too much panic about, the Guardians came back against the Angels last night. I didn't like that. Why? The White Sox won. Stop worrying about things that are out of the control. The one thing I will say, and I want to talk about Colson too, but I want to bring up pitching. I think Hoodie and I can tell you for a fact we're on the same page. I liked the Luis Castillo pickup at the deadline. I thought there was another one behind it. So it didn't feel as good after the deadline was over. That was like, man, it felt like they needed to be more like Kevin Gausman and Clay Holmes like the Cubs did. Like that felt like, okay, the White Sox aren't messing around. Like they're going out with a game 1 and a game 2. And now they got Sean Burke game 3. You're focused on October. I'm looking ahead to October. It feels a little different putting Sean Burke in game 1 and Luis Castillo in game 2 and Anthony Kay or Davis Martin in game 3 than had we had a Gausman or Holmes, Danny. But and I'd say this to Chris, and he knows that. I felt like they came up an arm short at the deadline to get there.
The price was high. And I think what the White Sox had in mind is they had a group of players that they were willing to give up if it was for a legitimate difference maker. But the price for starting pitching was very high. And, the Red Sox, acquired Adley Rutschman, and they paid dearly for Adley Rutschman. They did. They gave up 2, and a third prospect could be a good prospect also. I think the White Sox looked at this and said, okay, do we have a chance to get – now, listen, I give the Cubs credit. But you don't know what you're going to get with Clay Holmes. The guy spent about 8 weeks on the IL, coming back with a broken leg. And so I can understand why there was a little trepidation, because how many starts is it going to take for him to get his stuff back? Is it going to be 2, 3, 4 starts?
He looked pretty juicy last night.
He was great He was great last night. But I'll tell you what, in that start prior to that against the Cubs, against the White Sox, if it wasn't for Bregman and Nico Horner, exchanging, that White Sox, that Cubs infield defense is just off the charts. It's the best in baseball. And there's no denying it. Whether you're a Cub fan, a Sox fan, Nico Horner looks like he's played shortstop his entire life.
Yeah, it's great.
But the Cubs took a chance. But they're also in a different spot payroll-wise. They're in a different spot. The Cubs were more in a sense of urgency than the White Sox were. That's my point. And I get where you're going with this. Would you have liked it? Yes. But what would that price have been? I don't know, Chris.
I'm just saying when you're this close to getting it done with 30 games left, and it feels like you're piecemealing it together each and every day. I'm with you. I think they clinched the division, but if they were to fall short, it certainly feels like the pitching is going to be the reason why.
And listen, I don't want to put the blame on one area of the team, why this has made this so fun, but the inability to get consistent, and I'm not saying Max Fried, Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon, Ken Schlittler level pitching. Can you find some guys that can get you through 6 innings and manage a game and not have to go to the bullpen? That's why I was disappointed last night in Anthony Kay. You get a big lead, it's 8-2. Man, get some outs. And then, but if you go back, he had a couple of starts about 3 or 4 starts ago against Tampa on a Sunday day game as the best he's thrown all season long. And he's been really good. But the bottom line is The starting pitching has been the Achilles heel. Davis Martin was great. Davis Martin was great for 2 months. Sean Burke took over for that, but they haven't had. And I don't know if you guys feel the way I do. You can't wait till Sean Burke gets the ball. You feel good about Anthony Kay. You feel okay about Castillo. He hasn't pitched as good as I thought he would. He had the one good start, and then the other couple have been like okay, but then the next 2 days you're like, how the hell do we keep this close to get to the 6th inning?
No, that's it. That's it.
How do we keep it close? And we can go to Newcomb, we can go to Grant Taylor. And before last night, Jordan Hicks had been throwing the ball really well too. I like this bullpen a lot. I'm just worried it's been worked so hard. And listen, what Sean Newcomb and these guys are doing is so hard to do. Be high leverage Monday and Tuesday. Oh, hey, by the way, we're going to give you off tomorrow, and you're going to be the opener and go 2 innings Friday. That's not an easy thing to do. No. And they've done it all year long.
Danny, last thing for me, and we appreciate your time, obviously. You talked to Johnny Schriff, and you said you don't have many regrets in your career, but you would have wished to just pitch one time in a Sox uniform. How were you ever close, you and your agent, ever close to coming back home?
I thought my last year in Pittsburgh, I was there 1996. I was with the Pirates in spring training, and that was the one time the Pirates were kind of in transition. I was in the second year of a 2-year deal. I was going to be a free agent at the end of the year, and there was a lot of talk about me, getting traded. The White Sox were one of the teams, the Yankees and the Red Sox and Dodgers. Everybody was looking for, a lefty could get lefties out, and I thought this would be the one time that maybe it was going to be in the cards for me to play there. And I'll tell you, as a kid, man, I grew up in Gary, Indiana. And every time I would drive by the Dan Ryan, and I don't remember saying this to my mom. She swears by it, but I don't remember. We used to have, my dad, we had a lot of harness horses that raced at Sportsman's in Hawthorne in Cicero. So from Gary, you've got to take the Dan Ryan. You go right by, you look to the left, and there was Old Comiskey Park, right? And I don't remember saying this, but I said to my mom, I'm going to play in that place one day. And my mom said, oh, you think so? And I said, yeah, I'm going to play there. And my first day in the big leagues was at Old Comiskey Park. And I mean, awesome. All I can tell you is this. I got one great story to tell you. My dad was a steel worker. My mom cut hair. So it wasn't like, we would go sit in the outfield bleachers. My friend Mike Connell, he's the only guy that had a car. And I'll never forget this. We go to a doubleheader on a Saturday, White Sox and the Boston Red Sox. And Dennis Eckersley's in the outfield. He had the long hair, almost down to his shoulders. And I remember all these people were screaming, hey, nice hair, nice hair. And I don't know, this is so not me, Hoodie. I screamed, hey, Eckersley, get a haircut, man. You look like a girl. Hoodie, I swear to God. He turned around. I was like in the second row in the left field in the bottom deck of the bleachers. I'm like, hey, get a haircut. You look like a girl, Eckersley. He turns around. He makes eye contact with me. And if he could have run up there and beat my ass, he would have. The funny part was, fast forward 12 years later, his locker was next to mine at the All-Star game in Cincinnati.
Amazing. That is. I mean, back then he probably could have beat your ass, and no one would have known that except for you all these years. I mean,
yeah. And the only gripe I have, I wish I would have played for the White Sox. I mean, my first game as a kid, White Sox, Oakland A's at Old Comiskey. The A's had all the handlebar mustaches. Bill Melton was my guy. Oh. Harold Baines was my favorite player. There was no bigger Britt Burns fan than me. Britt Burns and Rich Dotson, man, that was my era, right? And I have so many cool memories. But my first day and opening day, Mike Ditka threw out the first pitch because the Bears had just won the Super Bowl. They beat the Patriots. Opening day of 1986, I'm standing on the foul line, and I'm like, man, what am I doing here? And that was the only regret. I would have liked to have played one season with the White Sox. That was the cool part for me doing these games is this is the first time like that. I did the Cubs pre and post game show. I was supposed to do the White Sox pre and post game show, and something got messed up. And, at Comcast, they called and said, hey, would you mind doing the Cubs pre and post game? And I'm like, man. All right. So then I, started the Big Blue Train and the whole thing. Now all the Cub fans hate me. They call me a traitor. I was never a Cub fan anyway. And I played for them.
Oh my
so
God.
Great. I was gonna do a rapid fire thing with you, but this is a great way to end it because it's not quite an Eckersley story because I was there, as you know, Danny, in those early Comcast Sportsnet days with you. You were a kid who grew up in Gary. I'm a kid who grew up right next door in Portage, as you know. So a guy like Dan Plesac playing at Old Comiskey Park, which is where I used to go to games, was a big deal for kids from Northwest Indiana because
Amen.
You were proof that you could go from those neighborhoods to the South Side. And 25 years ago, I was at a game with buddies in Toronto. True story. And up on the scoreboard in between innings, here comes Dan Plesac running in from the bullpen. And one of my buddies goes, "Plesac still pitching, huh?" And right when he said that, it said, "Congratulations, Dan Plesac, who moves past Cy Young for 8th most appearances all time." That is a hell of a accomplishment, my friend.
The only bone I have to pick with the White Sox is with Nancy Faust. I was the biggest hey. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Until she played it when the White Sox kicked my ass. I'm walking off the mound and she's playing that in the organ. I wanted to go up there and grab Nancy. So if I ever see Nancy again, how dare you do that to me, Nancy?
So good. Dan Plesac, MLB Network. You can catch him each and every night. He's got the rally polo on. We appreciate your time. I know where you stand on this. White Sox win the division, yes?
They win the division, yes. All I got to say is, don't stop now, boys.
Yeah. Danny, we love you, brother. Appreciate you joining us.
Over and out.
He's the best, man. Hoodie, he literally is one of my favorite people that I've gotten the chance to, know in this business, become friends with for all these years. And we've been talking about getting Danny on for the better part of 2 months. And I'm kind of glad it took this long to get him on because he has a pulse of the team. He's been in the clubhouse, and he understands what a pennant race is like, maybe more than any human we could actually talk to. He's been in overachieving teams, underachieving teams, and it is not easy to do 162. And like I said, I'm not going to ask you out a fan, but you got to be built for 162. We haven't been built for 162 in quite a while. This is going to go down to the final week.
Yeah, I love the butterflies or the condors in the stomach of White Sox fans right now because they're looking at the scoreboard and we're all emotionally invested in this White Sox team. We just have to take a perspective of this, Guff, and just look at this. The reason why that there's even chatter about our team, like, oh, the sky's falling and what's happening with the team is because we care. Because we want to see the White Sox in the postseason. I didn't think we'd see the Sox in the postseason here in the 2020s. Again, I thought that we'd have to flip the calendar to the 2030s to see this, but we're so happy for Chris Getz, one of our guys, a White Sox. Okay. We are so happy for this farm system, a farm system that you and I, by the way, while Getz was running it, was ripping it.
Yeah.
Because it was mediocre. It's like, where's the fruit? There's the tree, but where's the fruit, right? And we'd say, where's the young kids? Everything was focused on Luis Robert and Aloy and Tim Anderson and all those. Yeah, great. But what about the next generation? And that was not a conversation. Now you see plenty of fruit on those trees because they're in the big league ball club. So look, I always say the same thing that you say. You fan how you want to fan, but the sky's not falling in this White Sox team. No. It's been unpredictable all season, but it's fun. It's fun. And so when Plesac talks about all these other teams, like, we're not the Red Sox, we're not the Yankees. You know what? Screw that. We don't have to be the Rays or the Yankees or the Red Sox. We're the White Sox. We're uniquely made because there's a bunch of kids that's leading them to the division championship. We don't have to be those other teams. We just have to be able to have our own image. White Sox baseball, uniquely made. Put that on a T-shirt, pal.
I like it. Call Joe Johnson right now over at Obvious. And to that point, ask those teams who are the haves, because they are. Those are the haves. Those, a team they don't want to play in the playoffs this year, they're going to circle the same team. Chicago White Sox. They don't want to deal with a team that it could just turn the page. I mentioned Colson Montgomery. I wanted to get Dan on and off. I wanted to just get your thoughts briefly before we wrap things up here. James Fegan, if you have an opportunity, he just got the Sun shot. He just moved from Sox Machine to Sun Times.
Yeah, great for James.
Did a great piece on Colson Montgomery about the struggles, and everybody's You guys have been talking about on the radio. Everyone's ready to, kick this kid to the curb. He's struggling. We all know that. He talked about his struggles with Fegan, and there's two quotes I wanted to read real quick and just to get your reaction. Coming off of a 7 for 21 road trip, okay, where he got kind of back to feeling good again. Mm-hmm. Here's what he said. I saw success, saw results, and I got away from my process. That leads to chasing results, trying to do too much, trying to go get the game, trying to go get the baseball rather than just let the game work. It's mental. If you go up there and you don't have a plan or a process, it doesn't effing matter how your body is. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
This kid's struggling. Okay. Yeah. And they're in the middle of a pennant race. And guess what? He's going to strike. He doesn't want to be the all-time strikeout leader. He might be. But are we going to just bottom out on this kid who was an all-star after 3 months? And now it's just like, I can't watch him. He makes me sick. I love hearing this type of quote. Jake Berger has quotes in here. He trains with Jake Berger in the offseason, says he's got the it factor that you can't coach. This is guys trying to make adjustments in the middle of a pennant race, folks. I'm all in. I love that type of maniacal approach where he's like, look, I let the game get ahead of me, guilty. And because of it, the results are showing, and I need to let that stop. Love that.
He might eclipse Mark Reynolds' record for strikeouts. I don't care.
Neither.
I don't. You know why? Because in a playoff scenario, Guff, you know what he's going to do? He's going to hit bombs, or it's going to be a key bomb in one of those games in the playoffs. It's going to be like, oh my God. And again, we have to understand the ages of a lot of these guys. Yeah, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be violent swings. And we've already seen that with some of the players. There's been violent swings all season. But again, they haven't had to be locked in for 162 plus because the playoffs are coming, right? So if he gets the strikeout record, fine. I got no problem with that because I know that guy is going to give me some power. Home runs, RBIs, slug, he's going to do that. Look, you know how I know that? You and I grew up watching Ron Kittle.
Oh,
in the back of the baseball card, I hope he's not listening because I don't want him to pummel me. But on the back of that baseball card, how many times, let's go into old Comiskey. Oh, shit, Kittle's hitting, 211. But he's got, 20 bombs. And
he's a rough shot.
Yeah, right. You look at that paltry average, 199, and it's July. Yeah. But it didn't matter because the power numbers are there. So same thing with this kid. These kids have to grow. We're getting so much that we don't deserve yet from these kids. We're getting so much, fair. And
very
so
fair.
So it's okay. I look forward to some big crooked numbers in September and in October from this team.
Yeah, I think you nailed it because if Colson had 7 home runs and 26 RBI, this might be a different conversation. Okay, if you look like Luis Angel Acuna and not Colson Montgomery, different. But this guy is the 6th fastest player in history to hit 45 homers. Let's not forget that. And he's also played 196 career games, so just 34 games more than so 162 plus 34. That's where he is in his young career. And he's struggling in August, and so is Munetaka Murakami, and they're almost at their high water mark of the season. So that's where I'm just going to put it right back to you, the fan. I don't know what the Cleveland Guardians could do. They had a historic chase down last year. They caught the Tigers down 15 games. They may never lose again. I have a feeling they will, but they may go 30-0 from here on out. And if they do, more power to them. They'll be the number 1 seed in the American League. But the White Sox have been in first place for 74 freaking days. And until further notice, Hoodie, I'm going to leave it like this. I'm just going to let the White Sox be who they've been all year long. And if they win one, they lose one, that's fine. They haven't lost back-to-back games as we record this since the walk-off games against the Cubs and Sox, or against the Cubs. That's 17 days. But we're acting like, I mean, each and every night I feel like, oh, God, they're in a 4-game funk. No. That's not, it's take a deep breath. There's an off day on Thursday. Thank God. The team needs it. I think the fan base needs it.
Yes.
And then let's regroup. There'll be a month to go on Friday. That might be white knuckled at times, but damn it, get on board and enjoy the hell out of September, because we're going to have a September where you're starting to plan. The Bears play at what time? Because the Sox are playing right now.
Yeah.
That's going to happen, and damn it, you've earned it. Boom.
No question about that. Same White Sox team that we all root for, that was very competitive against the Yankees, competitive against the Rays, competitive against the Rangers, some of the better teams in the American League. And guess what? We're getting it done. We're getting it done. Again, it may not be aesthetically pleasing. It's not necessarily dominant, but who in the American League is? That's the point.
Exactly. Yep.
So exactly. If you think that the American League sucks, well, we all suck, but you know what? There's only one team that can be able to rise above. Our hope is that is the Chicago White Sox. It's what Plesac said. He goes, look at what Venable's trying to do, mixing and matching at the back end of that rotation. That sucks because I would love to be able to just be in my lawn chair, be able to say, well, I know 1 through 4, 1 through 5, who our rotation is. No problem. No mixing, no matching, no relievers in it. But that's not the cards we were given. And so
I didn't even think about, I'm glad he said it that way. Like I haven't even been able to think about a scenario where you're able to use Sean Newcomb the right way, because that's scary, because the White Sox might just be built for an October bullpen where you need to get into the 5th and then you start to you play with your toys. They haven't been able to do that because it's been so piecemeal each and every night. So that was a really good point by Danny. We thank Dan Plesac and the MLB Network for the time, for the conversation, for the therapy, because quite frankly, it was therapy to have Dan Plesac here on the podcast.
Yes.
Jonathan Hood, always good to be with you, my guy. We're going to have plenty down the stretch. Live at Cork and Kerry. I have an announcement, September 10th.
Did you say Cork and Kerry?
I said Cork and Kerry. Is that going to work out for you?
Oh, well, it's White Sox baseball. It certainly will work out for me.
We will be live.
What's the date?
That'd be September 10th. They're playing the Pittsburgh Pirates. And we will be live for you, the fans. So if you're going to the game, come to Cork. You're going to be at Cork anyway before the game, let's be honest. We're going to be live there. Me, you, and BA. The whole crew's going to be there, barking out to the fan base, probably down on a few pops, just allegedly. Good chance that you and I walk across the street after the game, too.
Okay, well, that'll work too. Absolutely. Let me just tell you, I'm just overjoyed about this White Sox team. That is a Sox Pirates combination, is it not? Is that the matchup?
The Sox Pirates, yeah. It's gonna be the Burke. It's gonna be the Burke Skeens game. We don't even know. It's
oh wow. I like our chances lately.
I actually do.
I do. I like it. Paul Skeens is what Pirates fans think Mizorowski should be. They think that that's what they think. So
we'll have to see about that. If you don't already subscribe to the recap, hop on board, do what everyone else is doing. Click the notification bell every time we drop a new podcast. You get the notification, whether it's audio only or if you want to watch us as well on YouTube, we appreciate that. So hit the subscribe button. For Dan Plesac, for Jonathan Hood, I'm Ryan McGuffey. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to this edition of the White Sox Recap Podcast. Look forward to hearing and seeing from you the next time around, which will be soon, because that's what we're doing. We're doing more episodes than ever here on the Recap.